Today on the Rebelcast, we will be talking about the slave nature of the humankind and why it's impossible for humans to be free. We brought up a model of free human, but sadly, that model exists only in fairy tales. Also, we will be talking about optogenetics, the most dangerous tool to remotely control the human mind. In addition, we will be talking about other human control tools like TV, phones, and social media. My name is Hassan Ismail, and you are listening to episode 5 of the Rebelcast. Before we start the podcast, please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and activate notifications. Thank you. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining the podcast. So today I have a very deep topic for you, which is the human nature. Are we free beings or are we slave beings by nature? A lot of you believe that we are free beings. We can do whatever we want to do. Nobody controls us. But what if I tell you, if we go deeper in studying this kind of nature, we reach a point where we are actually slave beings? One of the biggest ideas that we are enslaved for is enslavement of the thought. We're always inside a cage of thoughts. If you do something, you're always thinking, what will that person think about me? What will happen? When will happen? If I study this major, is it good or bad for me? Is it what I need to do in life? And if you do that major, you'll be like, am I enslaved for that major? Can I do something else? We're always enslaved in this cage of thoughts. And out of this enslavement, ideas, thought enslavement, goes out of it many different points. Like the enslavement of desire. When you desire something out of memory, some people reach a point where they get enslaved for their own ego and desire to do everything as their desire tells them. If you contemplate in this kind of enslavement, you will know that you are enslaved for your desires. You cannot survive without eating food. Nobody can. Even those new age people who say, we can survive by just drinking water or whatever. No, you cannot. You cannot even train your body to live without food. It's human nature. We are created out of clay, earth element. We need to eat out of earth. It's by nature. So we reach a point where we are enslaved for the desire, which is eating. You cannot live. If somebody, if you reach a point where you starve, you will do anything to eat. And if somebody starts telling you, I have the food for you, you'll get enslaved. They might enslave you to feed you. Another type of enslavement is the human enslavement. And I'm not speaking about Pharaoh type of enslavement or black people enslavement. No, not this type of. I'm talking about the enslavement of being stuck in a very, very toxic relation with a person, let's say. You become enslaved for that person, for that person's needs. And you start doing things just to please that person. And some people start using you. And this is actually a type of enslavement. You become enslaved, a slave for that person. But this kind of enslavement, you can actually break the chains of this type of enslavement. Yet, the chains of the desire enslavement, it's so hard. It's impossible to break the chains of the enslavement of the desire. Because you'll always be enslaved to eat. But the thing is, the more you eat, the more you accept the fact that you need more and more and more, yes, you will be enslaved for the food. You will be enslaved for whatever you drink. You'll be enslaved for this idea, which started from a thought inside of you, and then memory wanted to repeat. Another type of enslavement is the enslavement to God. And as we know, a lot of people worship God. I don't have anything against that, but I'm saying that in nature we are slave beings. You choose whom you want to be enslaved for more than the other. Like the people who say we are slaves for God. But do they mean it actually? If you go deeper inside of their everyday work and acts, you will see that they worship many things other than God, even if they say they are only slaves for God. They might be worshiping their boss at work, the manager, to give them money because of their work. It's not like the time of the nature, like 10,000 years ago. The tribes were truly enslaved for God because they believed that when they go and hunt or gather food, God puts that food for them, puts abundance for them. But now in these kind of days, we are enslaved for managers. We are enslaved for people who own this world, who control over it. Yes, you can pray for God. God is all around us, hears us. We're not alone in this world. We're not alone. I agree with that. But this connection, this deep kind of connection, is already lost. It's hidden. We try to make it better, but the more this world is advancing with everything inside of it, it's making you go away from God's bless and God's will. So you're being like, oh, I can do anything. I have a job. Some people might say, God does not give me the money. It's the boss that gives me the money. Some people might say. Because they are already inside a civilization and they are free as they claim. But guess what? They are enslaved for the money. They created another idea to be enslaved for. So the main title of enslavement is thought. We are enslaved for the thought. What will that person think about me if I do this? If I wear this today, will this please my boss? If I do this, will this please my boyfriend or my girlfriend? It's always inside of here. Enslavement is here. But can we break the thought enslavement? The thing is, we can't. That's the thing. We cannot. As long as we are always creating and creating and creating, we cannot break this type of enslavement to our thoughts. That is why I'm speaking about this topic today, to see what we can do about it. After I studied this kind of topic, I wanted to see if there is a free person actually. Can we draw a model of a free person? And I reached a point where, yes, we can actually draw a model of a free person. If the first thing is, as a human being with all this kind of thoughts, being enslaved to thoughts, the only way to break this type of enslavement is death. Once we die, we become free. But I'm not saying go and kill yourself. Don't do that. Don't think I'm telling you to go and kill yourself. I'm not. What I'm saying is, once we die, we become free from those chains of thoughts we are living here today. We got free of this 3D body we are inside. But do not kill yourself. Don't do that. That's an idea that how a person would be free. So death actually is the starting point of freedom. Many think that about death that it's something bad, but the thing is, death is start point of to be free on earth. But I'm not saying to kill yourself. Don't do that. Don't ever do that. And another prototype I tried to figure out, but that was kind of imaginary model of a free being. As long as we are enslaved for thoughts, to be free means to be free from thoughts. Means you don't think. Means you don't think in terms good or evil. You just be. You just be inside of the word. But that's not possible for human beings because we need to think. We are always in this kind of continuous type of thinking. So Buddhists, let's say, try to free themselves from this kind of enslavement of thoughts by meditating and not thinking about anything. But at the end of the day, they will wake up from their meditation and they will go to their job. They will go to whatever they want to do, to eat, to live. So at the end, they are still slaves for the thought. Buddhists try to detach from the reality. They're like, okay, we don't belong to this reality anymore. We just want to detach. We want to go away from this kind of reality we are living in. But they still think. All people think. So the model of a free human is a person that is free from the enslavement, which is thought. The enslavement of the thought itself. But it's not just thought. We are also enslaved for the period of time we live on earth. We are mortal beings. If you are free, you would say, I can live as much as I want on earth because I'm free. But the thing is, you're not. You are immortal beings. That's why ancient philosophers, like the alchemists, they call, or natural philosophers, they always wanted to achieve that idea of immortality. They call it the elixir of life. Like they wanted to drink from the elixir of to be immortal beings. That they don't age. They have eternal youth. But the thing is, nobody was able to do that. Everybody reached a point. We are human. We are mortal human beings. We are not immortal. Let's understand that. We don't want to dive into fantasies and go outside of reality because we are mortal beings. Let's believe that. Let's accept that. A lot of people outside there, they believe, no, we can actually be immortal beings. But the thing is, even let's say you became immortal. Let's say we reach a type of knowledge that we became immortal beings. You will be enslaved for the thought more and more. Because you become immortal, you'll be more enslaved for your thoughts. But if you are immortal and thoughtless and free from desire and free from God, you are a free being. But bring me that person. I wanted to talk to that person. Free from desire, free from thoughts, free from dying, free from worshipping, or free from the will of God. Bring me that person, and I would like to talk to such person because that person does not exist actually. It's just imaginary person I created in my mind of a really free person. Free from thought, which comes out of a desire, other human beings, laws, free from all of those kind of things, and free from the worship and the will of God, free from the control of the infinite power. But that person does not exist. If we die, once we die, that's a totally different topic. Some people say that we will go to heaven or hell. In heaven you will have immortality, you will have eternal youth, you will have whatever you want. Maybe more freedom, let's say, but you are still at the end slave for the for the creator of the heaven, God, whoever created that. You will always be enslaved for the creator, whoever granted you that ability to be inside this heaven. So at the end, after talking all of this, we reach a point that we are actually slave beings. We are not in any way free beings. What makes it worse is the people who rule over us know that we are slave beings by nature. We are program beings. They are creating all the means of control, all the means that can control over us. They are trying to create them to control us. And this is getting worse and worse every generation. The types of human enslavement that reach a point where you don't longer know if you are yourself or not. You don't longer know if you did something because of your own will or because of somebody else's will. You don't know. You're not sure about that anymore. You do something but you're not aware. Did I do that because I'm free? Or did I do that because life put me in many fragments of influences to do such kind of act? You're not sure why you did that thing. Even if we question the self itself, who are you? Are you you that, let's say, believe that you are a title, an engineer, a doctor, a philosopher, a scientist? Are you this person? What if I tell you, you change every second? I'll give you an example, a small example. Let's say I meet a person, and that person tells me he likes dogs. Let's say he likes dogs. And in my consciousness, I perceived that person, I received the information of that person that they like dogs. So I now believe that that person likes dogs. The second day, that same person was attacked by a dog. And since that day, he hated dogs a lot. For me, I still perceive that person as they like dogs. And I go to other people and say, oh, that person likes the dogs a lot, and start to transfer this kind of thought to another human being, and they all believe now that that person likes dogs. But what if I tell you that person now hates dogs? So that person changed. We are always under the matter of change. I cannot say you are a title and stop. There's many people that are like you. This does not define you. This does not give an absolute definition for who we are. So we give it a title, a human being. We are humans. But even if we say I am a human actually is a broad word. Like, There's many things that come out of just saying I am a human. Many things. And so we go into more specific. We just start giving each other titles, names, words, and we are still under the slavery of the thought. Some people don't want to believe that they are not actually their title. They are not actually what they work. They are not actually what they believe they are. Because we are always in continuous change. And we perceive many things. Another example is what we perceive actually. Let's say this paper. I look at it. It becomes inside of me, inside of my memory. But does this mean this paper in a way becomes me? Because it's just inside of me. Even any idea I perceive and I put inside of me, it becomes me. And friends do, your close friends, they become you and you become them. The food we eat affects us and becomes part of us. And the fact that we are billions of cells, we are made up of billions of cells inside of us. This reaches to a point where we are not even one. We are not even one. We are many, many, many organisms, living organisms. We're one human body is a community of living organisms. Are you or are you those millions of organisms? Does all of your cells agree with what you do to them? Agree with what you feed them? So we reach a point, this idea of telling ourselves that we are whatever we are, engineer, a guru, a title, we reach a point, no, we are not those. We're far away from being those titles. And the question repeats, what we are, who we are. And the answer for this, it's a very, very, very hard question. I can say that. Asking yourself who you are, or asking myself who am I, is hard. Because we are always in a continuous change. This question by itself needs a lot of contemplation, a lot of experiences in life, a lot of wisdom to say who we really are. You know, but not yet. Or maybe death might let us know more. I'm not saying go die. Don't do that, okay? Do not ever go and kill yourself. So, the fact that we are separating ourselves from others, the fact that we are, if we look at something, we say that this is a paper and I am me. This kind of separation. But what if I tell you that paper becomes part of you? There's no separation anymore. But the focus on separation in the civilization we live in makes us lost of who we are. Some people reached wisdom to say that we are everything. At least we are everything we perceive. Means if I look at you, you become part of me. And you look at me, I become part of you. And so on. For whatever you perceive in your life. Because those fragments of images, the computer, camera, the microphone, those fragments are just being projected inside of me. Inside who am I? But can I go and tell a person, I am that camera, I am that microphone, I am that? No, you cannot do that. You cannot go and tell people you are everything. But simply you tell them, I am that I am. I am that I am. That is a very great knowledge of the I am that I am. When Moses was speaking to God and asked God, what's your name? The voice said, I am that I am. Because if God will say, I am X or Y or Z, it's no longer God, because it defined itself. It limited the being in a word, that infinite being. Can God tell you, I am the trees, I am the... It does not stop. I am that I am. And what that I am is everything. Simply. Let's go back to our main topic, which is slavery. Today's slavery, the 21st century slavery, we are reaching a point where the rulers of this civilization are imposing on us many ideas and tools that will enslave us more, to know more about us, to be able to control what we do, where we go, what we think, how we dress, how we be. And a very dangerous tool that they are building that I wanted to talk about today. It's very dangerous, guys. And I need to warn you about this. It's like, consider it a wake-up call for the next few years that are coming. I read an article, which I'm gonna read a little bit from it for you. Source, it's Global Research, written in July 13, 2018. By Mojmir Babasek. The title of this article is Optogenetics, a new technology to control the human brain. Will people prevent the rise of a new totality? That is the title of this article. Inside of this article, it's written, Dr. Sarah Lisenby from National Institute of Mental Health in Maryland can use those brain maps to make different parts of the human body move by the magnetic stimulation of its brain, even against his own will. To do this, she is using a magnetic coil which pulsates a magnetic field in a specific frequency corresponding to the frequency of the activity of neurons in the brain spot, which controls the movements of a specific body. The magnetic field can produce electric currents in the neurons responsible for those movements across the skull. Guys, this is very dangerous. They are inventing a tool, a machine, whatever it's called, to control the human activity, the human brain activity. What they did is they emit a frequency that is equal to the frequency of an act you do. Let's say raising your hand. Raising your hand has a certain type of impulse or activity in the brain. So they record this activity inside the brain and they see its frequency. And they create a machine that can emit the same frequency of you, let's say, raising your hand. And once you receive that frequency, your hand will be raised without even you being conscious that you did not do it. Guys, this is so dangerous, unethical. Whoever is creating this wants to enslave us more than we are enslaved today. But it's not just this kind of tool. They invented the tool of optogenetics, which is worse. They don't need machines. They do it through proteins. Optogenetics, let me read how it's defined in the article. It's called optogenetics, and it's using light to make this work. It's necessary to introduce special proteins into the neurons in the brain by means of special viruses. What they do is they insert some proteins through drugs, viruses, whatever, inside of our body. And those particles receive light, and they convert the light into an activity to your body to do. So they can control you by the means of giving you drugs or whatever they want to give you. Moreover, people who were paralyzed and completely separated from communication with the world have been reconnected to the world by this modern neuroscience. In 2006, scientists placed into the brain a completely paralyzed man an implant, which transferred the activity of his brain into different devices and enabled him to open his email box, control his TV set and robotic arm. Other paralyzed people were able to search on the internet, play computer games, and drive their electrical wheelchair. So those are positive things. You know, everything has positive and negative things. What they are using this technology for, the optogenetics, is to for paralyzed people, for people who are ill, whatever, to help them live healthier and more efficient life. And as we saw, they induced it into a paralyzed person who was able to open his email just by the means of brain activity. It's tested, and it has a good side. We're not saying it's totally bad. Nothing in this world has a totality of being bad. Everything has good and bad side. We are not negotiating about that. We know it. We're not negotiating about that. But when you are being controlled by a sect or whatever they are, the government, the people who want to control the citizens, when you are being controlled by this type of people that are evil, actually, do you think this invention will always turn to be something good? Will always be for healing people? No. Will we stop if we raise a voice, if we do act to stop this unethical tool to be raised? We can stop this from going on. Because when I read this article, I was really scared, guys. I was really scared for human beings, for a human life on earth. We will reach a point where we will be totally enslaved. Can you imagine? Imagine that you are sitting now here and you start speaking, and those words were received not by your own self, by something outer from you. That is why I talked about the previous podcast. I talked about magic and science. In magical terms, this type of thing is used to make people do things against their will. They do symbols, whatever they do, and they call it jinn, they call it spirits, they call it ghosts. They start control over you through magic. But we are turning this magic into reality. They did experiments on patients who didn't even know that they are being controlled. I'll leave all the sources in description, guys. I'm raising awareness about this kind of tool that they are using, but we need to wake up. We need to wake up for the fact that we are being more and more enslaved. They imposed this kind of invention in industries. They started using it in cars. I read, let me see here. The Japanese car maker Nissan imposed this kind of invention in cars, where you start giving orders to brake the car through brain activities. And managers in some corporations in 2014, some Chinese corporations ordered their employees to wear caps. Can you believe that? They ordered them to wear caps to know what they think, to read their brain activities and know what they think, if they are in a good mood, if they are in a bad mood. And guess what? If they are in a bad mood, they can go back to home. The boss knows that this person is in a bad mood, and they tell them, you're in a bad mood, just go back home. You're not ready to work. Can you believe that? But the thing is, some people were awake to this kind of bad invention, optogenetics, that is coming to Earth, that we need not to support this kind of invention, because it's part of the artificial intelligence, because it's connected to the artificial intelligence in many ways, because everything is robotic. Your mind will be controlled by means of robots. The robot will know more than you know about yourself. And this is unethical. Unethical. Yuval Noah Harari is a historian. He said in one of his speeches, once we have algorithms that can understand you better than you understand yourself, they could predict my desires, manipulate my feelings, and even make decisions on my behalf. Whoa. Can you believe that? You won't even be able to do your own decisions in life. And we go to the main point. Will you be yourself? Whom you believe that you are something in life? You won't be anything. You will be controlled by this kind of algorithm. And if we are not careful, the outcome can be the rise of digital dictatorships. In the 21st century, we may be enslaved under digital dictatorships. Guys, we will be, that is a prediction, that is a prophecy. We will be enslaved by the means of cyber electronic digital world. The people who have more control over this kind of system will control you. And you might be one of them. You might be watching me now, and you might be indulged in this kind of project where you will be the controller. We will reach a point that either you are the controlled or the controller. And people would start acting not on their behalf, on some kinds of other persons, the demands of the government. What to imagine, guys? Imagine somebody, let's say, impose memories inside of you that can change how you perceive life. You wake up the next day and you have a totally different perception of life out of nowhere. This is kind of mind control. Neuroscientists at the University of Basel, Marcelo Einecke and Roberto Andorno, a human rights lawyer at the University of Zurich, writing in the journal Life Sciences, they said, toward new human rights in the age of neuroscience and neurotechnology, where they called for the creation of legislation which would protect human right to freedom and other human rights from the abuse of technology, opening access to human brain. In the article, they wrote that The mind is a kind of last refuge of personal freedom and self-determination. And at present, no specific legal or technical safeguard protects brain data from being subject to the same data mining and privacy intruding measures as other types of information. Guys, there's no right that can protect you if somebody breaks out your brain. If somebody breaks information out of you against your will, there's no type of right for you to defend yourself, to guard yourself against that. And by the rise of this kind of neurotechnology, brainwashing technology, if nobody stands early for this kind of problem, we will be totally controlled. If they tell you you believe in God, they can easily make you forget God through this kind of neuroscience technology in the name of science. In their article, they noted that access to the human brain also could be used for advertisement, and that some companies like Google, Disney, CBS, and Frito-Lay already uses services of neuromarketing companies for measurements of customer preferences and impact of their advertisement on customers. Is that acceptable? This is not acceptable, everybody. That is why we are called a rebel caste, because we need to stand and say no for anybody that oppress us with this type of technology. The age of tyranny, the age of dictatorship, the age of oppressors. It has been reported that over the last decades, violations of human rights might have taken place in experiments involving brain electrodes, LSD, hypnosis, the creation of Manchurian candidates, the implementation of false memories, and induction of amnesia. They did experiments on citizens. They didn't know that they are under this kind of technology, under this type of control. They did experiments. Is this acceptable? This is not acceptable. This is not acceptable. We need to stop this. We are human beings. Yes, we are slaves by nature, but it doesn't mean whoever knows that wants to take it as an advantage for them to control the citizens of the country, let's say, or of a government. I will go more into details about this kind of topic, but let me first continue this. In the years 2016 and 2017, 10 European organizations asked the European Commission to launch at work on legislation which would ban the electromagnetic interference with the activity of human nervous system and brain. Something good. The European Commission did not produce any positive response to this request. Some European organizations woke up and they stood up and said this needs to be banned. But guess what? The European Commission did not produce any positive act, and they just ignored it. There is no doubt that the longer the world governments will postpone their reaction to this threat to democracy, the closer they will be getting to totalitarian system based on the control of the brains of their citizens. This question is whether the citizens will defend themselves if they will not be told by the authorities that their brain activity can be controlled by pulsed microwaves, transmitted, for example, by cell phone systems. Guys, psychoelectronic. They can control you just by the means of a phone. The phone you have, by a phone call, they can emit microwaves through it that can affect you the way you think. You can read the article, it's in the description box. Please read it. I just read very few parts of it for you, but I read the whole article. If you read the whole article, guys, you will lose your mind. You will technically lose it. Technically, you will lose it. We need to wake up for this fact. I'm very disappointed by the human behavior. Working in the name of science to control humanity is not something ethical. And we, on the Rebelcast, won't allow this to go more. We will impose solutions to stop this kind of act that is going on. I'll do more research about it. I'll give you more insights about it from time to time on my podcast about optogenetics and how they control us via waves. And who knows? It's not just them. Any person can control you that way. A lot of people, by the way, do things out of their will. They do things because of other people telling them to do it. This is not acceptable. You think that you did it out of your own will, out of your own freedom? But guess what? We are not free beings. Let's be clear about that. We are not free beings. It didn't start with optogenetics. The governments wanted to impose control over citizens. It didn't start with optogenetics. Some people might think, oh, optogenetics is the cause of mind control in the 21st century. No. Guys, they started controlling people since the pharaoh time, since ancient times. They're trying to impose acts. But in the technology world, it started from radios, TV. This box that has all of these people inside of it, that you trust them to educate and entertain your kids. This TV box, you allow strangers to entertain your kids that you don't know whom they are. Imagine those same people knock at your door and tell you, I wanted to entertain your kids inside of the room. Would you allow that? No. You will say no. Who are you? But why would you trust them if they are just inside of a box? They are imposing ideologies. They are imposing bad habits in your kids that you're not aware of. Even cartoons, they have all of this kind of subliminal messages going on. And it's not just, they don't need to show you the message in your face. They don't need that. That's the thing. They can put a picture that can be shown in a matter of a microsecond. You don't even see it, but it goes inside of your subconscious mind. It goes inside of you. And as I talked in the first topic I talked about, the enslavement, the psychological enslavement, that everything you perceive you become. When cartoons are showing subliminal messages in their movies, sexual subliminal messages are being imposed on your kid's mind without you knowing that. Inside of the TV. I don't have a TV, by the way. Some people ask me, why you don't have a TV? Why? You are weirdo. What? I'm a weirdo because I don't have a TV? I stopped watching TV since 4 years ago. I stopped watching it. I don't want it. I don't want to watch TV anymore. I decided guess what? It made me a better person. I started reading more. I saw that I have more time, and it made me a better person. Not just the TV. You go to the phone. The phones you have between your hands. Controlling you more than TV now. Social media is type of program that programs you. Even the TV shows, have you wondered why they are called programs? TV programs? Because they program you. They impose their program inside of you, and you are programmed. You receive and transmit information. You are programmed. You can be programmed easily to do something. You get influenced, and this influence and inspiration is actually a proof that you are programmed. You get programmed a certain way to live, habits and all that. The phone that you have, the dark truth about it, they can hear what you say. They can see you from the camera of the phone. Start covering your cameras, everybody. Go to the settings inside of your phone and disable Siri, disable Google Assistant, disable all of this kind of apps and tools that can hear you. Spy tools. Those are spy tools, guys. Why? They want to hear you. Why they want to see you? Because they want to know more about you, to sell you. Advertisement. Have you wondered one day you were using your phone and advertisements start showing up random, but sometimes people see advertisements that they were thinking of. They were just thinking of. Isn't that crazy? They were just thinking of something, and that something shows up inside the phone. They hear you, they see you, they know this tool that is called a phone controls you, has more information about you. Be careful of your, do not put a lot of info inside of it. Make it very, very, very unpersonal. Don't do a personal relation with the phone. Don't talk with your girlfriend, boyfriend on a long term on a phone. Don't give information on the phone or computer or social media or whatever. Don't do that. Phone calls, hi, I'm there, meet me there, that's all. Don't do more than that. Hey mom, I'm good. Hey dad, I'm good. Don't do more than that. Once you meet them, you talk to them. Because we don't want to lose our privacy. We are losing privacy. Privacy terms are broken without you being aware of it. Disable Siri in the settings. Disable Google Assistants. Put antiviruses. If you can, even a better choice if you want, get a phone that has encryption inside of it, call encryptions. If you call somebody, the call just between you and him is encrypted. Nobody can break it. BlackBerry phones has this kind of encryption. Get the phones that have more security inside of it. I don't want to commercialize anything here, but the best phone you can buy, literally, is the phone that doesn't have a camera and doesn't have it's not a smartphone, it's a dummy phone. It's called a dummy phone. Get a dummy phone and keep the smartphone, but don't put a lot of info inside of it. But if you want to go the extreme way, a dummy phone. Dummy phone is like the old Nokia phones. This is, nobody can break it. Like, it's, they can, but it's harder to break it than a smartphone. A smartphone is much easier to break it. It's more susceptible for hacking, for all of that. Yeah. Be careful. Be careful, because we are entering the age of cyber war. The war that will start or will happen will be cyber, digital war, information war. Who has more information about that thing? Who has more information about this person? Who has more? This is the war that we are entering, and we need to be careful not to give a lot of info to our phones, not to take a lot of pictures, not to make this phone know more than us. Don't reach that point. Don't let the phone control over you. Or get rid of your TV. Get a dummy phone. I know we need a smartphone. Let's in a civilization that is based on cyber technologies, and the businesses are growing, that they need this type of advancement of smartphones, I understand that. I understand. Yet, it doesn't mean you cannot live without it. You can live without it. You can have integrity that I don't want to use that phone. I can live with a dummy phone, whatever you want to call it. I don't like to call it dummy phone because it makes you smarter, by the way. The smartphone makes you dummy. It's called a dummy phone because you are smarter than the phone. But the smartphone is called a smartphone because you are dummy in front of a smartphone. And many other ways are being imposed to control human behavior. Facebook, Instagram, all of those companies are doing their job in a way to control human behavior. I use Instagram. I'm not saying, oh, I don't use Instagram, but I use it just for my music. I don't have like personal accounts. I do music and podcasts. Other than that, I'm not interested in Instagram. And I believe one day I will leave Instagram. I will leave social media. I believe I will have this kind of power to break those chains. I'm sure. And you will too. Because it's either our privacy, our freedom, which is not actually freedom. As I said in the beginning, we're not free beings, but we can make ourselves more free than being more enslaved. We cannot be totally free. We cannot free ourselves from desire of eating. We cannot free ourselves from desires of drinking. Water, I mean. I don't want you to go and drink something else. We cannot free our desires from loving, unless you're a psychopath. You cannot free yourself from many things, but you can free yourself from enslavement of people. You can free yourself from enslavement of a person. If you're in a relationship, if you the government enslaves you, we can break those chains. There is some type of enslavements that can be broken, that can be achieved. Not all type of enslavement. But at the end, we will always stay slave beings for one main thing, which is thought. A closing example I'm gonna close this podcast with is when you, let's say, become a person today. This is actually an enslavement of thought, but it's related to the element of time. If you get enslaved, if you are a person, a specific person, let's say an engineer. You become an engineer today. You contemplate one day and say to yourself, I wanted to become a musician. Just an idea. But you start thinking more. You say, whoa, I spent 7-10 years studying to have this kind of PhD degree in my engineering, and now I wanted to be a musician. I want to throw away all of those years of effort and all that. So you say, no, I don't want to be a musician. It's good. I'm good with an engineer. This type of thought you are enslaved for. You linked your freedom of choice of being a free musician, being a musician, to being enslaved to your title, your recent title, your most recent title. That type of idea, thought, is actually enslavement. You won't be allowed to do something else. You won't be allowed to be free to do something else because you are enslaved. Even not only your own thoughts. You'll be enslaved for other people's thoughts. Your friends will come to you and tell you, hey, You spent 10 years working this and now you want to do something else? Are you crazy? Did you lose your mind? You are enslaved for those people's thoughts. But guess what? You can break those chains. You can break those chains by telling them, I don't care for what you say. I don't want to be enslaved for a human being. I want to be a free human. That I want to do what I think. Yet it doesn't make you free of what you think. But at least we are free from what other people think. And how do you break the chains of what you think? It's by acting. If I want to be enslaved and say to my thoughts and say, I don't want to be a musician anymore because I studied engineering. If you didn't go and study music and you commit to that fact that you are an engineer, you are enslaved for a thought or whatever other people will think of you. But if you say, if the next day you bought a music instrument and started learning how to play that instrument and said, I wanted to be that person, not that other person. You win, my friend. You win. You break a chain of thought enslavement. Out of many different chains you're enslaved for. I talked a lot today, but I hope you understood the major point that I wanted to tell you. Thank you so much for listening to me. I really appreciate it if you like, share, subscribe. That would help me share the wake-up call to other people. And I hope you stay blessed and safe in such circumstances we live in, from viruses, from control, from everything. And I have big hopes that we will stand against all of this artificial enslavement power, and we will set ourselves free one day from those kind of tools. If we stand one hand and we tell ourselves that we will free ourselves from this type of enslavement. Thank you so much for listening. My name is Hassan Ismail, and you were listening to the Rebelcast.